Welcome to the Recap Roman channel, and today I'm going to tell you a story from 2017. Before I start, subscribe and give me a like, it will help promote the channel. Subscribe to the channel, it's important because only 1% watch with a subscription, please. Claire is a young Australian tourist. She comes to Berlin to see the sights of the city. She stays in a cheap hotel and sits on the roof until morning in the company of young people who also came to Berlin. The next day she walks through the streets of the city and looks around the shops and buys herself small souvenirs. After that she goes to the library where she browses through art books. Returning to the hostel she encounters a young man. He speaks English calmly and treats her to strawberries. Claire finds him attractive and agrees to go with him to the house where his father grows these berries. Walking between the orchards, she tells him how she spent her childhood with her parents in a small and cozy house. He asks her reasons for coming to Berlin, and she tells him that she was working as a photographer for a real estate agency, and she wanted something more and decided to photograph the architecture of Germany. After spending the whole day together, they go home. Andy invites them to meet again and she immediately agrees. She was planning a trip to another city, but she decided to stay to meet her new friend. The next night the couple ends the night loving each other. In the morning Andy goes to work. He works as an English teacher at school. After work, his colleagues invite him for a drink, but he refuses and says he has a date. Meanwhile, Claire has to stay at home all day because the door won't open from the inside and he hasn't left any keys. In the evening they go to a club and afterwards they love each other again. In the morning she asks about the key and Andy shows her the dresser. He hurriedly leaves for work. When she has had enough rest she starts to look around the apartment and finds a magazine with works of art. Looking through it, she finds a picture of a woman's shoulder and the inscription lined between the pages. This inscription causes her alarm and she checks her shoulder where she finds the same inscription. Frightened she hurries to the door, but the key left behind certainly doesn't fit. The windows are also locked and her cell phone has no SIM card. She tries to escape by breaking the window, but the windows are double paned and it is impossible to break them. Andy comes home and behaves normally and offers to cook dinner together. He ignores all the questions the girl asks him. When she gets mad, she pounces on him and he has to tie her to the bed and tells her that it is useless to scream because all the apartments in the building are abandoned. The next day Andy has lunch with his father. Eric, having heard about Claire, asks about his son's previous girlfriend, and he says that she has returned to Canada. The father says he is surprised, as his son only dates tourists. When Andy returns home, he undies Claire so she can wash up and have dinner. In the bathroom she notices long blonde hair in the drain and realizes that she is not the first victim here. She spends the night tied to the bed again. In the morning he undies her and leaves for work. He hides the key to the apartment in a lockbox by the door. After making sure the guy is gone, Claire starts looking for something that can help her escape. She finds a screwdriver, which she hides. In the evening when Andy comes home, he finds her putting together the puzzle he brought her yesterday. She is very quiet and reserved and pretends to be happy that he is back. Waiting for a convenient moment she stabs a screwdriver into his hand, snatches the keys and promptly runs out of the apartment. But she does not manage to leave the courtyard because the guy catches up with her and breaks her fingers, and then takes her back to the apartment. A few days later, Andy's student appears on the doorstep and tries to confess her feelings to her teacher. She sees Claire wrapped in a towel in the hallway, and she is embarrassed. After realizing why the student came, Andy tells her to leave and that nothing will happen between them. She threatens to tell her parents and Franca leaves. Dennis passes quickly and Claire is still in limbo. The young man keeps taking Polaroid pictures of her and taking strange poses, cutting off her hair and acting strange. A few weeks later, he learns of his father's death. Overwhelmed with grief, he lives in his father's house for a week. It has already snowed outside and Claire, locked in the apartment, is forced to warm herself by the fireplace, for which there is almost no wood left. The food is running low and she has to eat what she can find. She runs out of energy due to hunger and cold. When Andy returns home, Claire is relieved and even grateful. She thought the young man had left her for good. When she learns of his father's death, she comforts him and they love each other again. From that day on, Claire's mood begins to improve and she eagerly does chores around the house, bakes pies and even learns to play the accordion. On Christmas Day, sitting in the living room, she asks her boyfriend why he chose her. He confesses that she is perfection to him and he has never experienced anything like her before. Later he gives Claire a present, a book and a dog that her father had. She can't hold back her tears of joy because now she has a real friend. Right after Christmas, Andy takes the girl to the woods and plans to kill her. But his plans are disturbed by a little boy who asks to help his brother who has twisted his leg. When Andy examines the boy, Claire whispers to the boy to call for help, but he doesn't understand English. Deciding that there are too many witnesses around, he takes her back. On New Year's Eve he goes to visit Peter, with whom he works together at school. When fireworks are going off outside, Jana, the guest's girlfriend, shows excessive attention to the guest and tells her that he takes it as an insult to his friend, and asks her to leave their house. Immediately, Claire notices a man in the yard and tries to get his attention. He immediately goes to the door, but Andy, who appears, kills him. He then forces Claire to help him wrap the body in cling film and burn it. A few more weeks pass and there is a report in the newspaper about Claire's disappearance. He sees the article and doesn't pay much attention to it. One evening he checks on the students' work in the kitchen and sees that a girl has burned her hand. He goes into the room to get some ointment and doesn't notice Claire putting something in Frankie's notebook. In the morning he leaves for work, but before he does he turns off the electricity and water in the apartment. So he decides to abandon her and leave her to her fate in the apartment. At school, he distributes notebooks with their homework to the students in the class. When Franca opens the page, she sees a photo of Claire tied up and she remembers seeing this girl in her teacher's apartment. She tries not to give herself away and asks to leave the classroom. She gets on her bike and rushes towards the teacher's house. Yeah, she decided to save Claire herself instead of going to the police. That's very genius. However, she didn't notice that she dropped the picture of Claire and her classmates immediately saw it and started judging it. When he sees the reason for the school children's merriment, he realizes he's been exposed. He gets in his car and drives to his house. Franca manages to free Claire and together they hide in the uninhabited apartments of the house. Gathering all her will in a fist, Claire manages to lure Andy into the apartment and lock him there. He sits down in a chair and starts laughing. Claire, meanwhile, catches a cab and drives away. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, put a like and write a comment. With you as Recap Roman. See you soon.